Welcome back to Tiny Tent Show. When we started this online show in April of 2020, it was a means of staying in touch with Big Top fans during the pandemic shutdown. Our original plan was just to do 6 episodes, but it turned into a weekly online show that ran all the way through June of 2021 when we opened the tent again for live performances. Now this winter, we're going to do 9 episodes. This one, plus weekly shows in January and February. So we look forward to meeting with you again on Friday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. This holiday show features some of our Blue Canvas Orchestra members, and they are coming to you, and this is exciting, they are coming to you from the new Big Top Event Center at the Gateway to Bayfield. It's an old restaurant that the Big Top is renovating, and while it is not completed yet, the BCO decided to christen the stage anyway, even though it doesn't actually have a stage, or curtains, or seats. But this will be your first taste of the new event center. It will be open eventually for year-round events coming soon. It will also be the home of the Big Top offices and the Big Top box office starting in 2022. We would like to extend a special thank you to our Tiny Tent Show sponsors, Jim and Joy Perry, and Denny and Judy Kirshner. Now please sit back and enjoy the Blue Canvas Orchestra and special guests.
Who's got a beard that's long and white?
Santa got a beard that's long and white.
Who comes around on a special night?
Santa comes around on a special night.
Special night.
Beard that's white. Must be Santa, must be Santa, must be Santa, Santa Claus.
Who wears boots and a suit of red?
Santa wears boots and a suit of red.
Who wears a long cap on his head?
Santa wears a long cap on his head.
Cap on head.
Suit that's red.
Special night.
Beard that's white. Must be Santa, must be Santa, must be Santa, Santa Claus.
Who's got a big red cherry nose?
Santa got a big red cherry
Who
nose.
laughs this way? Ho, ho, ho.
Santa looks this way, ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
Cherry nose.
Cap on head.
Suit that's red.
Beard that's white.
Beard that's white. Must be Santa, must be Santa, must be Santa, Santa Claus.
Hey.
Hey, right.
Hey, 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 hey. Don't drop those toys. What you got in that bag?
Must be Santa, must be Santa, must be Santa, Santa Claus.
Who very soon will come our way?
Santa very soon will come our way.
Hey, little reindeer, pull his sleigh.
Santa little reindeer pull his sleigh.
Reindeer sleigh.
Come our way.
Ho, ho, ho.
Cherry nose.
Cap on head.
Suit that's red.
Special night.
Beard that's white. Must be Santa, must be Santa, must be Santa, Santa Claus. Must be Santa.
It's gotta be Santa.
Must be Santa.
Oh, yeah.
Must be Santa, Santa Claus.
Thank you.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black pea. You're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got garlic in your soul, Mr. Grinch. I wouldn't touch you with a 29.5-foot pole. You're a vile Mr. Grinch. You have termites in your smile. You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile, Mr. Grinch. Given the choice between the two of you, I choose a seasick crocodile.
You're really a mean one.
You're a foul one, Mr. Grinch. You're a nasty, wasty skunk. Your heart is full of unwashed socks. Your soul is full of gunk, Mr. Grinch. The three words that describe you best are as follows, and I quote: stink, stank, stunk. You're a rotter, Mr. Grinch. You're the king of sinful socks. Your heart's a dead tomato splotch with moldy purple spots, Mr. Grinch. Your soul is an appalling dump heap, overflowing the most disgraceful assortment of deplorable rubbish imaginable, mangled up in tangled up knots.
You're really a mean one.
You nauseate me, Mr. Grinch, with a notch and super knots. You're a crooked jerky jockey and you drive a crooked horse, Mr. Grinch. You're a three-decker sauerkraut and toadstool sandwich with arsenic sauce.
And that's when he's happy. That's Phil's having a good day there. Well, we're going to feature Jack Gunderson here on a tune that was arranged by Severin Bainan. Severin's the music director that shares the host with me. Severin's out in LA. He's missing the gig. He's another slacker. That's all I can say. And that's funny if you know Severin, because they lock him in a closet and he does arranging all summer long. They never let him see any sunlight. Yeah, unfortunately, he's a vampire, so that works out. Hey, Phil, you want to sing this one with us? Come on. I know you hate Christmas and all, but this is a beautiful tune.
Stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow on snow on snow on snow on snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long and long angels and archangels may have gathered there, cherubim and seraphim rising in the air. Only Holy Mary in her maiden bliss worship the beloved with a mother's If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would know my part. What then can I give you? I must give my heart.
I really appreciate Big Top having me come for the Tiny Tent show here, as I did earlier last year with that. It was a great time, great musicians, wonderful elbows to rub. I love that. But I want to dedicate this to my daughter, Casey, and this goes back years ago when she was about 6. She has about 6 kids now, so it was a long time ago. But I decided, as most parents, they want their children to experience some of the joys they've had in their childhood, so they try to replicate them and hopefully have the child take those experiences with them. So this one winter in 1986, I decided that I would get a Santa Claus outfit and be Santa and magically come into the house and put gifts out. And I wanted my daughter to see that and experience that. And as it turned out, I was more excited about doing it than she was about Christmas. It was 6 o'clock, and I set the clocks ahead 3 hours because she could tell time. And I said, Casey, it's bedtime. And she, very befuddled, dealt with what happened to that last 3 hours. But she did go to bed. But she asked me to do 2 things: lock the front door, because she didn't want some old gray-haired guy with a beard coming through like Jack or something. And then she said, put the fire out in the fireplace, because if he comes in the way he's supposed to, she didn't want him to get burned. So I took care of those issues, and she went to bed, and I left her door ajar, and upstairs I went and donned on this Christmas Santa Claus outfit and slid down a prearranged ladder. And magically, as only a dad or Santa can do, went through a locked door and went straight to my work. And I gotta tell you, I was feeling Christmas. It was wonderful for me. When I turned around and looked at the work I had done and knew that she had been watching and squirming in her bedroom, I knew that I had accomplished a good job. So I went outside and I'm thinking, this has to have a little more authenticity. So as I jumped off my deck, I grabbed a few rocks in the driveway and threw them up on the roof to make reindeer sounds. And up the ladder I went and shed the costume and called downstairs to my daughter and said, Casey, what is happening downstairs? And she burst into that childhood excitement that every parent wants to see their children experience. And she was telling me that she had seen Santa. She was having a hard time articulating that she had seen Santa. But I'm being dad now, and I said, Casey, are you sure you saw Santa? And she said, yes, I am, Dad, yes, I am, and I can prove that he's real. And I said, Casey, how can you prove that Santa's real? And she goes, well, his reindeer broke our skylight. Thank you. Ed's going to join me on this one. This is a piece composed by the late, great Don Pavel. Thank you.
Rick Gilman. I was talking to Tom earlier about Tiny Tent Show, and he said, I've had literally 100 people come up to me and say, Tiny Tent Show saved my life. And I think that's overstating it, but I've heard the same thing, you know, so it's, I think, and we were talking about it, you know, we got the production value got higher and higher as we learned what we were doing, as Abe Clark knows. Yeah. And, but I think what really hooked people was the beginning stuff, where it was just practically in our pajamas in our living room, you know. That's what, like, they really, you know, resonated with. But.
What I liked about it was a lot like the early days of the tent from 1986 until right around the time Tent Show Radio started going, when we could just do just about anything we wanted. And the weirder, the better. So I think we succeeded all over again.
I'm sure we've all had I've had so many people approach me, same thing.
Yeah.
Just saying that you know, the isolation with COVID, they said that was the highlight of our week. Get ready and.
What I love about that it was a posting, you know, it's posted on the web so they could watch it anytime. But many people, 7 o'clock,
that's right.
the first time, this is when we're gonna watch it. I know it'll be here forever, but I don't care, you know.
Well, it's fun watching
Yeah.
it was fun watching the comments come in though, you know,
Yeah,
while
yeah.
it was live.
Hey, I want to introduce this fellow here, Billy Knobloch. Excellent bass player. And I know some of you have seen Billy playing with with us in the past. He's also plays with Corey Carlson a lot, but Billy's a professor. He's got his doctorate in history, and he's an author. He's written several books, books on the Cold War, books on music, and it was great to find all that stuff out. I loved your playing right away, but oh my God, you did all that too? How can you play and do all that? So apparently it's possible. So we have our own professor. Now we have 2 professors. We have 2 doctors in the house. Yeah, 12 notes, it's easy, I know. Keep telling myself that. Anyway. Well, here we go. This is a tune called Christmas is Coming. I'm going to turn up the cello and try that again. Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Please to put a penny in the old man's hat. Please to put a penny in the old man's hat. If you have no penny, a halfpenny will do. If you have no halfpenny, a farthing will do. If you have no farthing, then God bless you.
Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Please put a penny in the old man's hat. If you have no penny, a halfpenny will do. If you have no halfpenny, then God bless you. Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Please put a penny in the old man's hat. If you have no penny, a halfpenny will do. If you have no halfpenny, then God bless you. Christmas is coming, and the goose is getting fat. Christmas is coming, and the goose is getting fat. Please to put a penny in the old man's hat. Please to put a penny in the old man's hat. If you have no penny, a halfpenny will do. If you have no halfpenny, a farthing will do. If you have no farthing, then God bless you.
Oh, thank you.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the happiest season of all, with those holiday greetings and gay happy meetings when friends come to call. It's the happiest season of all. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, and caroling out in the snow. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Oh, there'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. Happy ghost stories and tales of the glories and Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. Oh, it's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
All right. Well, we're going to continue with Phil with another Christmas standard. We're going to play a tune by Jackson Browne. This is called The Rebel Jesus. And I love the tune because it brings out what a radical person he must have been. Our counterculture, the original counterculture activist.
All the streets are filled with laughter and light, and the music of the season, and the merchants' windows are all bright with the faces of the children, and the families scurrying to their homes, while the sky darkens and freezes. They'll be gathering round the hearths and tables, giving thanks for God's graces and the birth of the rebel Jesus. Well, they call him by the Prince of Peace, and they call him by the Savior, and they pray to him upon the seas, and in every bold endeavor, as we fill his churches with our pride and gold, and our faith in him increases. But we've turned the nature that I worshipped in from a temple to robber's den. In the words of the rebel Jesus.
We got a world with locks and guns, and we got our fine possessions. And once a year when Christmas comes, we give to our relations.
And perhaps we give a little to the poor, if the generosity should seize us. But if any one of us should interfere in the business of why they are poor, they get the same as the rebel Jesus. So please forgive me if I seem to take the tone of judgment, for I've no wish to come between this day and your enjoyment. In this life of hardship and of earthly toil, we have need for anything that frees us. So I bid you pleasure and I bid you cheer from a heathen and a pagan on the side of the rebel Jesus.
Are you ready, Phil?
I think so. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the spirit right. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you. They know that Santa's on his way. loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas to you.
Next, we're bringing up Jan Lee, and she and Tom Mitchell have this wonderful show that they've been doing for several years now, and it's a duo version of the Christmas Carol.
Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, Stave 3, The Ghost of Christmas Present. Awakening in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore, and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was once again upon the stroke of 1.
He felt that he was restored to consciousness in the right nick of time and established a sharp lookout all around the bed, for he wished to challenge the spirit on the moment of its appearance and did not wish to be taken by surprise.
Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing. So when the bell struck 1, no shape appeared. Now at this time, he lay upon his bed, the very core and center of a blaze of ruddy light, which being only light
Was more alarming than a dozen ghosts.
and he began to think that the source and secret of this ghostly light might be in the adjoining room.
This idea taking full possession of his mind, he got up and shuffled in his slippers to the door. The moment Scrooge's hand was on the lock, a strange voice called him by name.
Ebenezer! Come in! Come in and know me better, man! I am the ghost of Christmas present! Look upon me!
Scrooge reverently did so. It was his own room, there was no doubt about that, but it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceilings were hung with living green, and a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney. Heaped on the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, suckling pigs.
And plum puddings and barrels of oysters and red-hot chestnuts.
Cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, immense cakes.
And seething bowls of punch. What's that?
The spirit was clothed in a simple deep green robe or mantle, bordered with white fur. Its feet, observable beneath the ample folds of its garment, were bare. And on its head it wore no other covering than a holly wreath. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, its sparkling eye, its open hand.
Its cheery voice. Oh, you have never seen the likes of me before.
Never. Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, and I learned a lesson which is working now. Tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast, and all vanished instantly.
And now they stood in the city streets of Christmas morning, where there was nothing very cheerful in the climate of the town, and yet there was an air of cheerfulness abroad, for people were jovial and full of glee. The shops were still half open and radiant in their glory.
There were pears and apples clustered high in blooming pyramid.
There were bunches of grapes made to dangle from conspicuous hooks that made people's mouths water as they passed.
Oh, there were piles of filberts, mossy and brown, recalling their fragrance and ancient walks among the woods.
Everything was good to eat and in its Christmas dress. Now, the sight of these poor revelers appeared to interest the spirit very much, for he stood with Scrooge beside him in the baker's doorway, and as they passed, he sprinkled incense on their dinners from his torch.
It was a very uncommon kind of torch, for once or twice when there were angry words between some dinner carers who had jostled each other.
Aye, watch out!
Hey, watch out where you're going, you
The
lousy.
spirit would shed a few drops of water on them from the torch, and their good humor was restored directly.
It's a shame to quarrel on Christmas Day.
So it is. God love it, so it is.
Is there a particular flavor in what you sprinkle for your torch?
There is. My own.
Would it apply to any dinner on this day?
Any kindly given. To a poor one most.
Why to a poor one most?
Why, because it needs it most. And they went on, invisible as before.
Perhaps it was the pleasure the good spirit had in showing off this power of his.
Or else it was his own kind, generous, hearty nature and his sympathy with all poor men that led him straight to...
My clerks?
And on the threshold of the door, the spirit smiled and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling.
Then up rose Mrs. Cratchit.
Oh, dressed out poorly in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons, which are cheap, and make a goodly show for sixpence.
And laid the cloth.
But whatever is keeping Father and Tiny Tim? Well, Martha wasn't this late last Christmas by half an hour.
Here's Martha, Mother.
Oh, there you are, my dear. How late you are.
We had a good deal of work to do, finish up last night, and had to clear away this morning, Mother.
Well, never mind, as long as you're here.
And in came Bob, the father, with at least 3 feet of comforter, exclusive of the fringe, hanging down before him, and his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
And how did our little Tim behave today?
As good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much and thinks the strangest things you have ever heard. He told me coming home that he hoped the people saw him in the church because he is a cripple. And it might be pleasant for them to remember on Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
His active little crutch was heard upon the floor, and back came Tiny Tim without another word was spoken. He was escorted by his brother and sister to his stool beside the fire.
Old Bob, turning up his cups, compounded some hot mixture in a jug with gin and lemons and stirred it round and set it on the hob to simmer.
And Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy hissing hot.
And Martha made the applesauce.
And at last, the dishes were set on, and grace was said.
Succeeded by a breathless pause.
As Mrs. Cratchit, looking slowly all along the carving knife, prepared to plunge it into the breast, and when she did, and when the long-expected gush of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all around.
Hurrah!
Hurrah!
There never was such a goose. Its tenderness and flavor, size and cheapness were the signs of universal admiration. But eked out by applesauce and mashed potatoes, it was a sufficient dinner for the whole family.
And in half a minute, Mrs. Cratchit entered with a pudding, like a speckled cannonball, so hard and firm and blazing in half a pint of ignited brandy, and bedight with a Christmas holly on the top.
What a wonderful pudding! I regard it as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit since our marriage.
Well, now that the weight of it is off my mind, I must confess I had doubts about the quality of the flour.
But nobody said or thought it was at all a small pudding for such a large family.
Well, Well, it would have been heresy to do so.
Any Cratchit would have blushed to hint at such a thing.
And at last the dinner was done, the cloth was cleared, and the hearth was swept, and the fire made up.
And the compound in the jug being tasted and considered perfect.
Apples and oranges were put upon the table,
And a shovelful of chestnuts put on the fire.
and then all the Cratchits drew around the hearth,
Bob served it out with beaming looks.
while the chestnuts sputtered and crackled noisily,
Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
which all the family re-echoed. God bless! God bless us, everyone, said Tiny Tim. The last of all. He sat very close to his father's side upon the little stool. Bob held his withered little hand in his to keep him close by his side and dreaded that he might be taken from him.
Spirit,
Said Scrooge with an interest that he had never felt before.
tell me, will Tiny Tim live?
I see a vacant seat in the chimney corner and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, kind spirit.
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my race will find him here. If he be like to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the spirit and was overcome with penitence and grief.
Man, if man you be in heart, will you decide what men shall live, what men shall die? It may be that in the sight of heaven, you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child.
Scrooge bent before the ghost's rebuke and trembling cast his eyes upon the ground.
But he raised them speedily upon hearing his own voice.
To Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
Oh, the founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and I'd hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children, Christmas Day.
It should be Christmas Day, I am sure, on which one drinks to the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you, poor fellow.
My dear, Christmas Day.
I'll drink his health for your sake, and the day's, but not for his. A long life to him, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. I'm sure he'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
To Mr. Scrooge.
To Mr. Scrooge.
They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Their clothes were scanty.
But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. The spirit did not tarry here, but bade Scrooge to hold his robe, and pressing on, sped.
Whither? To see?
To see!
And to Scrooge's horror, looking back, he saw the last of the land, a frightful range of rocks. Behind them, and his ears were deafening by the thundering of water as it rolled and roared and raged among the dreadful caverns it had worn and fiercely tried to undermine the earth.
And built upon a dismal reef of sunken rocks, some league or so from shore, there stood a solitary lighthouse. Great heaps of seaweed clung to its base, and storm-birds borne in the wind rose and fell about it like the waves they skimmed.
But even here, two men who watched the light had made a fire through the loophole in the thick stone wall that shed out a ray of brightness on the awful sea. And joining hands over the rough table at which they sat, they wished each other Merry Christmas with their can of grog.
And one of them, the elder, with his face all damaged and scarred and hard-weathered, struck up a sturdy song that was like a gale itself.
King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen when the snow lay round about, crisp and even.
And the ghost sped on above the black and heaving sea, on and on, until being very far away, lighted on a ship.
They stood beside the helmsman at the wheel, the lookout on the bow, the officers who had the watch, dark, ghostly figures in their several stations, but every man among them hummed a Christmas tune, or had a Christmas thought, or spoke below his breath to his companion of some bygone Christmas day with homeward hopes belonging to it.
Now it was a great surprise to Scrooge, while listening to the moaning of the wind, to think what a solemn thing it was to move on through the lonely darkness over an unknown abyss whose depths were as secret and profound as death itself.
And it was a great surprise to Scrooge, while thus engaged, to hear a hearty laugh. And much greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize it as his own nephew's. And to find himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room with the spirit standing, smiling by his side, and looking at that same nephew with approving affability. Now, if you should happen by some unlikely chance to know a man more blessed in a laugh than Scrooge's nephew, all I can say is, I should like to know him too. It is a fair, even-handed, noble adjustment of things, that while there is infection and disease and sorrow, there is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor.
He said that Christmas was a humbug. As I live, he believes it too.
More shame to him, said Scrooge's niece.
Oh no, he is a comical old fellow. That's the truth. Not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him.
Oh, I am sure he is very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so.
Well, what of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He don't do anything good with it. He don't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he's ever going to benefit us with it.
Well, I have no patience with him.
Oh, I have. And I'm sorry for him. The consequence of his taking a dislike to us and not making merry with us is, as I think, that he loses some pleasant moments which could do him good. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him. I mean, he may rail at Christmas till he dies, but he can't help thinking that if he finds me going there in good humor year after year and saying, Uncle Scrooge, how are you? I mean, even if it only puts it in his mind to give his clerk 50 shillings, that's something.
And they all laughed and passed the bottle joyously. After dinner and tea, they had some music. Scrooge's niece played well upon the harp, and played, among other tunes, a simple little air which had been familiar to Scrooge from the boarding school, as he had been reminded by the ghost of Christmas past. And as this strain of music sounded, all the things that ghost had shown him came upon his mind. He softened more and more, and thought that if he could have listened to it more often years ago, it might have cultivated the kindnesses of life for his own happiness, with his own hands, without resorting to the sexton's spade that buried Jacob Marley.
But they didn't devote the whole evening to music.
They also played a game of how, when, and where.
That's right.
There might have been 20 people there, young and old. They all played, and so did Scrooge, for wholly forgetting in the interest he had in what was going on.
And that his voice made no sound to their ears. He sometimes came out with his guesses quite loudly.
Very often guessed right.
And the ghost was greatly pleased to find him in this mood, and looked upon him with such favor that he begged like a boy to be allowed to stay until the guest departed.
It was a new game, Spirit. Only 1/2 hour more. Only one.
Now, it was a game called Yes or No, where Scrooge's nephew must think of something, and the rest must find out what, by only answering questions with yes or no.
The brisk fire of questions to which he was exposed elicited that he was thinking of an animal.
A rather disagreeable animal.
A savage animal?
An animal that growled and grunted.
And lived in London.
It was not a horse.
Or a pig.
A cow.
Or a tiger.
A tiger? No, of course not. A dog.
A cat?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. No. A bear, big bear.
Oh, I have found it out, Fred.
Well, said Scrooge's niece.
I know what it is.
What is it?
It's your Uncle Scrooge.
He has given us much merriment, and it would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. So, here is a glass of mulled wine, and I say, Uncle Scrooge, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man, wherever he is. If he wouldn't take it from me, but may he have it nonetheless.
Scrooge had become so gay and light of heart that he would have thanked them in return, but the whole scene passed off in the breath of the last words spoken by the nephew.
Much they saw and far they went.
The spirits stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope.
By poverty, and it was rich.
In almshouse, hospital, jail, misery's very refuge, the Spirit left his blessing.
Hurry, my time grows short.
Our spirits' lives so short.
My life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight.
Tonight?
Tonight at midnight. Hark! The time is drawing near. Look there. A boy and a girl, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too in their humility, where graceful youth should have filled their features out. A stale and shriveled hand had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shred, where angels might have sat enthroned. Devils lurked.
Spirit, are they yours?
They are man's. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both, for on their brows is written doom unless the writing be erased.
Have they no refuse? No resource?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about for the ghost, but saw it not. And as the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes beheld a phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground toward him. Thank you.
Folks, the Lake Superior Big Top Chautauqua continues to be deeply grateful for your support through the past year through present times and through what's ahead. We just would be nowhere without you. We do not take it for granted. The booking crew is already announcing the first of the 2022 shows. Keep your eye on www.bigtop.org for more information. And also be sure to join that Big Top mailing list. That is the most efficient and accurate and up to the minute way to keep in touch with Big Top and to get word on the shows right out of the gate. We are also launching a fresh season. I'll learn to say season by the time it happens. We are also dead sober, folks. I know the hat might make you question that, but I am completely stone cold sober. We are launching a fresh season of Tent Show Radio come the new year. So be sure to tune into that, and links to that show, both places to listen to it on the radio and places to stream it. Information about that is available at www.bigtop.org. Once again, we wish to thank our sponsors, Jim and Joy Perry and Denny and Judy Kirshner. We wish them and every single one of you a happy holiday season and a blessed new year. And rather than say goodbye, I'll just say what we always said up there where I'm from, which is, well, I suppose, forward.